living abroad who simply can't get to the polls on Election Day have long been able to vote absentee ahead of time. Now, increasingly, they can vote early in person simply because they want to. In 2012, more than a third of votes cast were done before Election Day. And this year, absentee ballots are already in the mail in North Carolina, and early voting will soon start in 6 more states. This early voting is all very convenient and may allow more people to vote. But is it, on balance, a good idea? Syndicated columnist George Will joins us. George, I know you've thought a lot about this. Have some ideas? Let me hear them.
I do. I think it's a bad idea for a number of reasons. To begin with, 7 states will be voting before the first debate. 22 states will be voting, with 42% of the American population, by the way, before the third debate. Now, debates, just leave aside all the rest of the campaign that's going to continue after these people have cast their ballots. Debates mattered a lot in 1960. Again, 16 years later, when they had the second debates, the Carter-Ford, when Ford made his blunder about Eastern Europe, it mattered a lot. 1980, the one Reagan-Carter debate was dispositive in that election. Today,
wasn't the trend moving in his favor, though, before that?
Yes, it was moving that way, but technically they were in the public polls. They were essentially tied when he went to Cleveland for that debate. This year, this spring, in Arizona, thousands upon thousands of Arizonans voted early for Marco Rubio, who by the time the actual primary date came around had dropped out and wasn't a candidate anymore. So the whole rhythm of the campaign, the information generated by the campaign, is lost to a large extent on these people.
But is that offset, or could it be argued that that's offset by the fact that people will find it easier to vote because they get to pick their time and place, and that more people will therefore vote, and that's a good thing?
There doesn't seem to be any effect on the number of people voting, partly because the kind of people who take the trouble, and it is a bit of trouble to go to the early voting, are generally interested in and indeed ardent about politics, and they're going to vote anyway. Now, people will say, well, they're the kind of people who have made up their mind early anyway. They're not swing voters. Still, there's no data that demonstrates that this increases turnout.
In a broader sense, is this a function of the way we insist that our public life be today, that it shouldn't be inconvenient, it shouldn't be difficult?
I think so. That's what makes this different than absentee balloting, which became a big deal in 1864 because Lincoln, who didn't know in advance that Sherman was going to capture Atlanta and guarantee his re-election, wanted the soldier vote. They were scattered all over the battlefields, and he wanted to make it easier for them. This is about pure convenience. Now, the cost of this is, for most Americans, they don't contribute to campaigns, they don't go out and actively participate in campaigns. Their civic engagement is voting. That's it. And it used to be a kind of nice civic liturgy that we had. Everyone in the country turned out. You went to the firehouse or the grade school down the street or a church basement, and we came together on one day and had this communal public action in our great public square. That's gone now. We don't have Election Day, we have election season.
Yeah, somebody was going to say election month. That was what they said 4 years ago. This year it'll be election season. George, thank you. Nice to see you.
Glad to be with you.